Hey, thanks for joining the channel. In this episode, we are making these baseball flags out of pallet wood.
Desperado, sitting in a old Monte Carlo, a man whose heart is hollow.
So as I stated in the intro, we're making these baseball flags. These are 17 by 17, which is the actual size of a home plate for baseball. And they're made out of pallet wood. So I'll show you how I get my pallet wood, how I remove the pallet boards from the pallet, which is the hardest thing. But first of all, a shout out to Max F from on YouTube. This is where I got the idea from. He does a great job in his YouTube channel of walking through making some flags, and I just modified a little bit, and this is what I came up with. From a materials list, again, you're going to need pallet wood. I'll talk about that here as the episode goes on. And then if you're going to put a frame around it, you can use pallet wood for the frame, but I've got 1x2s, and a 1x2 by 8 foot will more than make the frame on this. And then my stars I get from, these are 3D wooden cutout stars. I get them from Banks CNC. But you can get these on Etsy or anywhere else, but Banks does a great job. Again, no sponsor, don't get anything for that, but anyway, let's get into this episode. Alright, step one, since we're going to be making these flags out of pallet wood, I'm going to remove the slats off these pallets, and the easiest way to do that I found is just use a reciprocating saw with a metal blade and go in behind and just cut the nails off, leave the nails in, and you can remove the nails after the fact, or you can leave the nails in for some added look, added character. But let's do that now. Remove some of these slats, and you're going to need, depending on the width of these, we're going to need about 6 to 8 foot of total slats that we're going to cut down to 1.5 inches. So let's remove some of these pallets. Alright, now that I've got my pallet boards, I cut off way more boards than I'm going to need. I'll either use these for flags, or I'll make multiple of these, home plate flags. It doesn't take much material, but just be careful. Every pallet wood is a little bit different. Color, texture, type of wood, and also thickness and dimensions. So I'm going to try to keep everything the same. The next step for me is I'm going to put these down and burn them. I want a burnt look. Certainly optional here. When you do burn the pallet wood here, it doesn't burn like pine wood. It's a harder wood, but I do like the texture that it adds, and just make sure you pick the right side that you're going to work. So that's the next step. Let's get to burning. You have seen in some of my other videos me use this tool. It's just a big torch. It's actually used for killing weeds. It's a weed burner is what it's called. But I've got it hooked up to my LP tank here, and it works really good to burn things consistently, and a lot of it really fast. Again, if you don't have one of these, you can use a handheld torch. It just takes a little more time, and it's a little more inconsistent because the flame is narrower. Or you don't have to burn these at all. So. But I like the texture of these being burnt. So let's get to this. Alright, I've got 3 good pieces. So I've got about 120 inches of wood here, and then I've got one that was bowed, and I forgot to put a straight edge on it. So there are some good pieces in this. So if I need it, I will use it. Otherwise, I'll use this for my backer board. But this is what your strips are going to look like. You also saw me have to remove some of the nails in a couple of these because they were in my path with my blade. So a good example of what you might get into. But this is what the boards are going to look like. In the next step here, we'll cut these to the length that you need, and then start staining them, and then gluing them, and then putting the backer board on. All right, the next step here is to get to your crosscut saw, or if you've got a crosscut fence for your table saw, or if you want to cut it some other way, but you are going to want square ends on this. You're also going to want 12 strips, so we're going to cut 12 strips at various lengths. The majority of the strips, 7 of the strips, are going to be 9 inches. Now we're going to cut them at 9 inches, and we really only need 8.5. So we're cutting them a little long to just give us a little fudge factor that we can trim later on when it's assembled. So again, the watch out here is if you kept the nails in your board, just make sure that you're not going to hit a nail at your designated cut point, and go from there. But we're going to get to cutting and move on to the next step. All right, the next step in this is what I like to do is lay them out in the general formation that they're going to be in. Now keep in mind we're going to be cutting 45-degree angles in this, but I like to set these out so I'm not confused on which one's red, which one's white. And also a good tip here would be is I take these different lengths of wood and I put the length on them. So if I ever have any questions, I know what length. For example, this is 9-inch. All of these are 9-inch. There's 7 9-inch ones. I've got a 15-inch one here that I marked. But it's just good labeling practice. Once I have them laid out and marked, we're going to start. There are 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This 6th one at the bottom, which would be the 13th stripe at the bottom, is ultimately going to be very narrow and also very short. So what I'm going to do is we want to start with red. We're going to end with red. I'm going to take every other one of these and just slide them out so I can identify which ones are red and which ones will be white. Then I'll take them over to my painting, staining area. And okay, at this step, I've got these guys. These are going to be the red ones. Now I'm going to use crimson. It's mid-wax tintable stain, and it's in a crimson formula. But really any red. I've used sangria. I've used a couple other, as long as it's red to match the flag there. Also, you may want to use black. Sometimes I'll make black stripes that represent the red flags. But in this case, this is going to be crimson red, and I'll just stain these and wipe them off. I've got vinyl gloves on here to keep my hands a little protected. All right, you can see that I've got these stained. You probably noticed I was doing some of the edges. I do not the whole edge, but I try to do the top of the edge there a little bit, so if they don't match up perfectly, that you don't have bare wood showing, and kind of helps with the look. But again, there's really no rights or wrongs here. Because this is pallet wood, it's pretty hard wood. I let the stain set a while before I wipe it off. I could certainly go back and put another layer of stain on this, but it's a lot easier to put another layer of stain in than to make it lighter. Now, if I wanted to make this lighter, I could go back with some sandpaper and sand this down. But I really like the looks of this. The burnt rough wood is coming through really good. So my next step here is to do the same thing with the opposite boards with white. Okay, I've got my other boards here that I need to paint. Now again, I'm going to paint them white. You don't have to. There's a lot of times where I'll just leave these burnt, and the burnt look will be my white stripe. But in this case, I want them to be white. So I've tried white tintable stain and really haven't had any good luck with it. It just doesn't seem to pop and get into the wood and create the look that I like. So what I use and what I found the best for me is just white latex house paint. So I'm going to put a light coat on this. The look I'm going for is like a light white wash. So I'm not going to put a lot on there, and I'm not going to try to cover this. when I come and wipe this off, you know, it'll smear it in and smear it around, and it usually gives me the look. The other thing is I'm not going to do all of these boards. I'll probably do a couple boards at a time and then come back and dry them off. But again, it all comes down to the look that you're looking for. Well, let's see what happens here. Okay, now that I've got my whiteboards done, again, you could put another coat on this. You could spray paint this white if you wanted to. It all depends on the look that you have. But I really like this rustic slash whitewash look here. So I'll go back to the assembly table here, get these all organized, and we'll look at how we assemble them. Now I'm going to want, the key here is that these top boards on the right side here have to be all flush, and they have to be at least 8.5 inches here. So I'm going to line these up. I'm going to line these up with the center mark here, and then we'll start gluing. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate these top 7 9-inch pieces and clamp them separately. And the main reason I'm doing that is the dimensions and thickness of my wood is different, so I want them to be somewhat flush to match the bottom ones here. So I'm going to put one clamp on here, and then I'll clamp these separately, and after they're dry I'll match them up. Alright, now that I've got my unions cut, so I decided to go with some old barn wood that I had, but in the past I've used 1x12, so in lieu of 1x12s I'm using barn wood just to stay with the pallet theme here. So I'm going to stain this blue, the Union's blue, and I use Minwax navy blue wood finish that's tintable. So I believe I got this at Menards. Okay, I have the Union here. I've got the stars attached. You saw me do that on the video. Now I want to attach that to the rest of the flag. I'm going to put glue on this edge and bottom edge here, and clamp these in place. And then I'm going to use one trim screw that'll go through the top here and give me a little more support. Now keep in mind, after I cut this to the shape that I want, then I'll go back, flip it over, and put braces on the back. So this is still pretty fragile. I want to be real careful with it, but I'm really trying to get it glued up good enough that I can flip it over securely enough and then put those braces on the back. Okay, here's what we got so far. So again, keep in mind that this is pretty fragile. It's just glued together. Not a whole lot holding it together. That's a step down the road here. But I want to talk you through the dimensions here. So this should be, you want this to be 17 inches. This basically is a 17-inch square with 45-degree angles. So you want to make sure that your top is square. I've got to trim this off just a little bit to get a little bit more flushness at the top. Then you want to measure down 17 inches from the middle of this line down to the last board and cut that board off. And so that's what we're going to do now. I'm just going to square this off. I want to make sure that this is 17 inches wide. I want to make sure that my union is 8.5, and I want to take any material off this side, the non-union side, to get to my 17. Okay, I've got the dimensions that I'm looking for again: 17 inches across, 17 inches down. You can see this last stripe, the red stripe, I barely have just a little strip there. Not even sure I need that, but I'm going to leave it for right now. The next step here is we're going to set ourselves up to start cutting the 45-degree angles to the bottom here. So what we want to do is from the right-hand corner here, I want to measure down 8.5 inches, and then from this side 8.5 inches, and we're going to connect that 8.5 inch mark on each side to the exact center of this bottom board at 17 inches. So I've got this marked off. The best way I found to do this is with a skill saw. So I'm going to put this on a flat surface, hold it down, and then just cut it with my skill saw, trying to be as careful as I can to keep that edge straight. Alright, you saw me add the backer board for strength, but for all intents and purposes this is a completed project. The only thing is I like to add a little frame to it. So what I'm going to do is take a 1x2 by 8 foot board, I burn it, and what I'll do is cut this. These are 22.5 degree angles right here. Everything else is 45-degree angles here in these corners. So two 22.5 and 3 45-degree angles. So I'll add the frame here and we'll show you the finished product. Okay, the finished product. I really like it with the frame on, which is optional of course, but really like just the simplicity of the burnt wood. I'll put some polyurethane on this. I like using gloss, but I think in this case I'll put some satin on here. But I guess just rehashing, I use pallet wood. If I don't use pallet wood, I've made these out of 1x2s, which is actually a little bit easier because that way your union and your stripes are the same thickness. But I really like the look of this pallet wood. So, you know, thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please send us an email or put in the comments down below. Check out our other channel, Midwest Hunting and Outdoors by Two Dumbasses, and we appreciate your viewership. But until then, be safe, have fun, make some sawdust.